still in time. I traveled alone across the ocean with 2 babies, and I feel extremely proud of myself. And here are some tips. So, I love Denmark. Love Denmark. I went to acting school 1,000 years ago, and the Danes have a super active actors community. So there were all these Danes that just went to school here in New York, and we became very close friends because you're like living and breathing each other's bullshit for like 2 years, your pains, your blah 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 blah. And they're amazing actors and amazing people, all of them. And since then I've been like a few times, maybe 4, 5, 6, several times to visit Denmark. I feel like a fucking superhero, and I feel like anything is possible now. It's like an 8-hour flight. Yes, of course I went direct. And there are a few things. So the first thing that I got, which was immensely useful, was I'll put links in the episode. There are these blow up pillows that look like big rectangles, and you stick them between like the table that folds down and the seat. You know, there's a hole where your legs are supposed to go. And instead you stick that in there, and so the baby or the toddler can have a bed. And it really works. I mean, look at the picture that I'm including. And so that was amazing because like they have quality of sleep. Like fuck those neck pillows. Like they just lie down and sleep. Okay, fine, to a certain age, but it was super handy. And so on that 8-hour flight, I think the toddler slept, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 hours, you know, I think a long time of that long flight because it was night. And then the baby, not so much. So there's like a 3-year-old and then a one and a little bit year old, 3.5 and 1.5, let's say. And the 1.5 was nothing to brag about, really. And it was tough because, you know, they have this thing of like toddler in the lap, which is like until you're 2, the baby's 2, you can not have to pay for an extra seat and you can carry them on your lap, which sounds like a nightmare, and it is. If you can afford it, get a fucking extra seat for your child, because you're gonna be living with that, like it's already a tiny space. Why do they allow this? And then like we all take advantage of it. Like I just find it to be like such a stupid idea. I think they should just make it a reduced fare for a tiny little baby who's maybe bothering the entire plane. Anyways, so of course I took them up on this idea or this offer that the airlines have. So I had the kind of nightmarish experience of having this like very active, lively baby stomping his feet on me on and off for 8 hours. I would do it again. So what was super helpful for me before the trip, I was very concerned. I was like, how am I going to do this? How am I going to survive? How is it going to go? And what was super helpful for me was to really surrender and say, it's going to fucking suck. It's going to suck going, it's going to suck coming back, and the middle is hopefully going to be phenomenal. And that mentality made all the difference for me. So if that's something you're doing, if you just adopt like, it's going to suck, it really helped. And those pillows. And then, I don't know if you guys know about the Benadryl recommendation. There's this Benadryl recommendation, or kind of like a maybe underground recommendation, that Benadryl makes kids very drowsy, and you can give it to babies for long flights and they'll sleep through it. People swear by it. There's, I think, some controversy about using it, etc., etc. So on the way, and I had it in case because I was terrified, baby Benadryl. And on the way back, in the very beginning of the flight, and it was like the middle of the day, it wasn't the end of the day, like there was no real chance of this baby sleeping. So he started getting very active, and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna give him Benadryl, which I had very mixed feelings about it. I was deliberating it for about 2 weeks. So I gave him the baby Benadryl, and then he started freaking out, like crying, nursing, crying. And I was like, oh my God, I started to think like, is there a doctor on board? What have I done? I was like, my mother really ran through my mind more than anything, because she was like, she'll never forgive me for doing this, because she's very anti like medication stuff. She's like, she'll never forgive me. What have I done? This baby. And he started like crunching on some chips. I was like desperate to soothe him, and he was totally fine. It was his ears that were popping. It wasn't the Benadryl. And so the baby slept for maybe 2 hours. Even the Benadryl, honestly, I don't know why, but it really did not do the magic that it's supposed to do. I got maybe not even 2 hours, maybe an hour and a half I got of sleep from that baby. So it was not really so worth it. The stroller situation, the good thing is you can really just bring any stroller because you check it at the gate, which is nice. So people, talk about those travel strollers, and honestly, I have a travel stroller and like a bigger one, and I brought the travel one, and I'm not entirely sure that was the best decision, because I never had to fucking fold it other than sticking it, at the gate so they could put it under the airplane. Never again in the trip did I have to fold that stroller or carry it anywhere. So I don't know if travel strollers are obsolete, or you really have to think about like, will you need to carry this and fold it? I find the travel stroller to be great for the subway when I have to carry the babies down the stairs. So that was like a big regret. And then I had 2 suitcases, and one of the suitcases was almost entirely for sleep. I'm very controlling. So I had melatonin for children, which I'll put the link. It's like a little syrup, and it worked amazingly. I had the blackout curtains. I'll also put links to that, the ones that you travel with. And there are different ones, I have to say, and I'm pretty happy with the ones I found. I've probably had 3 if not 4 different stick-on curtains over my experience, and I really like these more than the others. Some of them, when the sun hits, they start to smell. Other ones are a little bit heavy, so they don't stick very well. Like, they might be a little more blackout, but they're so heavy they don't stick very well. For all of these curtains, unfortunately, the mechanism that they come with, which is little suction cups to stick on the curtains, I don't think ever worked that well. Unfortunately, what works is masking tape, but it's not masking tape. It's like a contractor tape, it's called. It's like, it doesn't ruin the walls. It's white, and it's very sticky. And that is, even at home, unfortunately, very shoddy, is how I keep these curtains in place. So I brought like a roll of that, the curtains, the sound machines, the fucking video cameras, the melatonin. And in addition, I brought, there are these covers for those travel cribs. You might have heard of them. They like, if you don't, there are these travel cribs, and there are these like covers that kind of black out, give it an additional blackout. I brought those as well. So I was super equipped, because my plan was, when the children are sleeping, that's when I'm hanging out and socializing with my friends. So it was very important for me for that to happen. Otherwise, the trip really would have been a wash if I'm just, taking care of crying children. And it worked amazingly. Those children slept phenomenally from all nights, going from New York to Denmark, all nights, separate rooms. I stuck one in the bathroom and the other one in a room. We had an apartment lent to us by my friend's neighbor. It was amazing. And so, all of that was amazing. And then, being there, it was so precious to show these children, who won't remember, I understand, and it maybe will just exist in their subconscious, but just to show these children a little bit of the world, which I think with COVID and maybe just my travel tendencies hasn't really happened. And it felt like a real moment of the vision that I originally had of having children, of like, strap them on the back and do what you want with them. Of course, it was not do what I want. I had to mind their naps, I had to mind their sleep. Of course, I was occupied with them, and I love them all the time. But it was like as close to that feeling of like what I loved about life without kids, with kids. And it was great. I know that people might do screens, you know, for the children on the flight, but I still don't do screens for the children. And I really considered like, this may be the time when I break down and this 3.5-year-old is going to watch it, because, and then my mom told me, but remember when you grew up, there were no screens and you guys did fine on all these flights. And I was like, how did, because my mom was like alone with 2 kids. I was like, how did you ever do this? And she said, I brought like games and blah blah. And then her best tip, which I think is like just the best tip of all, is don't pay too much attention to them. I know. Don't like, and let's do this, and this is gonna be amazing, and, you know, during the flight. Don't pump it up. Just, there's this almost like a, there's like a slight like, I'm gonna ignore you. Not exactly, but it's just like, don't be there to make it all amazing for them. Just, you're riding together, a little bit ignoring, we'll make it through. And that tip is probably what saves my energy the most. So I highly recommend traveling with 2 young children, alone if you can, or with someone, of course. For me, that wasn't an option this time, but I saw parents, you know, with 2 children, and it didn't look any easier. Isn't that weird? It didn't look any easier. It looked really hard, actually. So, not sure why. The same ages as mine. Didn't look much easier. And I saw parents with just 1, and it also looked difficult. People are very kind to a woman traveling alone with 2 children. That was great. And it was just so empowering and so nourishing. It was like, they're a part of me. That was really the feeling I had. I mean, they're their own people and whatnot, but it was a feeling of like, yeah, you're a part of me, and this is my life, and I can share it with you. Which I guess sometimes in, maybe for me in parenting, which for me is a lot like a life of service, which I like, mind you. I mean service in the best of ways, like I'm here to help you and, you know, help you. That's not even, it sounds condescending, but I don't mean it to. So it's like, what do you want to eat? And, you know, what can I make for you? And now let me dress you. And like, you know, there's a lot of energy out there. And it really felt like we're in this together. And I think that was like a super cool feeling. Like it was kind of new for all of us. There was like an equality to it that was very surprising and I think very healthy. Maybe I almost felt like I had permission maybe to be a little bit of a kid too or something, even though of course I wasn't. I was like super responsible for these 2 humans, but so many times I didn't have the answers. So many times people said things, you know, in Denmark, and they're like, what did you say? I was like, I have no idea. I don't speak Danish. Like, you know, it gives me like that same innocence. That's not the word, but that same curiosity and like wonder, and the world is surprising that they have probably every day. And it was like so fucking trippy to be in that together. So thank you for letting me steal your time. Hit the bell icon to get notified when I release new episodes. Subscribe to the channel, and thanks so much for watching.